Have you ever felt that your strength, instead of being a blessing, has become a target? That your independence, your clarity of purpose, and your refusal to be diminished have provoked a strange and hostile reaction in someone close to you? If this person exhibits narcissistic traits, know that their perception is not a mistake, it's a sign that their inner light is so bright they can't control it. And when a narcissist can't control you, they resort to an old and wicked trick. They won't try to break your strength. They'll try to convince you that your strength is actually your greatest weakness. This is a journey into the heart of the psyche, seen through the lens of Carl Jung, to understand this painful dynamic not as your failure, but as proof of your progress on the journey of individuation. The first Jungian insight we need to understand is that your strength is a symbol of your individuation process. Individuation is the lifelong journey of becoming who you truly are, integrating all parts of yourself, both conscious and unconscious. Your refusal to be manipulated is not arrogance. It is the voice of your authentic self speaking up, a self that the narcissist, fragmented and disconnected from themselves, cannot comprehend. Second, the narcissist's attack is a massive projection of their own shadow. The shadow, for Jung, contains everything we repress and deny within ourselves. The narcissist lives in denial of their own fragility, inadequacy, and inner emptiness. When they discover their strength and integrity, it painfully illuminates their darkness. Unable to confront their own shadow, they project it onto you. They accuse you of being selfish, cold, and domineering, precisely the qualities they cannot stand in themselves. And here's the trick, the third and most crucial insight. His tactic is reality inversion. He takes your brightest virtues and distorts them until they look like monstrous flaws. Your ability to set healthy boundaries is labeled a lack of empathy. Your need for solitude to recharge your psychic energy, a classic trait of introversion, which Jung saw as a natural orientation of the soul toward the inner world, is painted as antisocial or rejection. Your intuition, that deep voice that warns you of danger, is called paranoia or exaggeration. It's a form of dark alchemy, where he tries to turn your psychic gold into lead. He does this to disorient you, to make you doubt your own internal compass. If he can convince you that your north is south, he gains control over your journey. This brings us to the fourth truth. The narcissist desperately needs your psychic energy. Jung referred to libido not just as sexual energy, but as the fundamental life force of the psyche. An individual in the process of individuation generates their own light, their own energy, from their authentic center. The narcissist, on the other hand, is a psychic vacuum. They have no internal source of validation or energy. They depend on external sources to feel real, to feel alive. Your strength, your vitality, your joy, all of these are a feast for them. By trying to convince you that your strength is a weakness, they're not just trying to control you. They're trying to install a tap in your soul to drain your libido. They want you to waste your precious energy defending yourself against false accusations, doubting yourself, and seeking their approval. It's a form of psychic vampirism. The fifth truth is perhaps the hardest to accept but the most liberating. The narcissist is an involuntary catalyst for your own shadow integration. When they accuse you of being selfish, a part of you for a moment wonders, am I? When they call you cold, you may search your memories for proof of your coldness. This moment of doubt is crucial. Jung taught us that we all have a shadow. We all have the potential for selfishness, coldness, and arrogance. The narcissist, by projecting their shadow onto you in such an exaggerated way, forces you to look at your own. They invite you, in a distorted and painful way, to ask yourself, where do these qualities really live within me? The difference is that you, on your journey of individuation, can do this work consciously. You can recognize your potential for darkness without identifying with it. You can say, yes, I can be selfish at times, but I choose to act generously. Yes, I can close myself off, but I choose to cultivate empathy. By doing so, you not only diffuse their attack, but you also become more whole, more integrated. You rob the accusation of its power by owning your own complex humanity. And this brings us to the sixth and final truth, which is the culmination of this entire journey. Your resilience is not just a defense, it is an act of loyalty to yourself. For Jung, the self is not the ego. It is the archetype of wholeness, the organizing center of the entire psyche, the image of God within us. It is your internal compass, your inner sun. The narcissist's ultimate goal, conscious or not, is to make you abandon your own center and adopt it as the center of your universe. They want to be your sun, your compass, your source of truth. Every time you resist their manipulation, every time you trust your intuition despite their gaslighting, every time you refuse to diminish yourself to fit into their small world, you are performing a sacred act of devotion to your own self. You are saying, I belong to myself. My center is within me, and it is not for sale. This unwavering loyalty to your authentic core is what the narcissist hates most, and, paradoxically, what he covets most, for it is something he can never have. He lives in a periphery of echoes and reflections, while you are learning to inhabit your luminous center. But here, we need to be honest and careful, because every light casts a shadow, and the light of our own strength is no exception. After a battle like this, after being forced to become a fortress to protect your soul, there is a danger, and that danger is the shadow side of your own strength. It's natural, after being betrayed, to build walls. It's understandable after being attacked to keep your guard up. The problem arises when the wall becomes a prison and your guard never lets down. The shadow of your strength can manifest as a hyper-independence that refuses any help, seeing vulnerability as a mortal weakness. It can become a constant vigilance that turns into cynicism, seeing potential threats everywhere, preventing new and healthy connections from flourishing. Your clarity can become rigidity. Your ability to protect yourself can become self-imposed isolation. Jung would warn us that this happens when the ego over-identifies with a single archetype, in this case, the warrior or the survivor. To survive the attack, you needed to put on this armor. But individuation, the journey to wholeness, requires us to be able to take off the armor when the war is over. If we cling to it, we repress other essential parts of ourselves in the shadow, the inner child who needs nurturing, the lover who yearns for connection, the dreamer who longs to trust. Dealing with this shadow doesn't mean abandoning your strength. On the contrary, it means strengthening it with flexibility. The work here is a work of gentle discernment. It's learning to differentiate between the walls that protect you from real danger and those that isolate you from life itself. It's like having a garden. You need a strong fence to keep out predators, but you also need a gate to let in the sunlight, the rain, and the friends who come to admire your flowers. The practice is to begin to open that gate, consciously and safely. Maybe it's by sharing a small vulnerability with a trusted friend. Maybe it's by allowing yourself to receive a compliment without suspicion. Maybe it's simply acknowledging, in a moment of silence, your own longing for softness and connection. Integrating this shadow is understanding that true strength is not the unyielding hardness of steel, but the resilience of bamboo, which bends with the wind, but does not break. It's honoring both the warrior who protected you and the child he protects. In the end, what we're left with is not a collection of scars, but a map of our own psyches, which we were forced to explore because of this painful collision. Let's recap this journey, not as a list of wounds, but as the discovery of our own sacred lands. You began feeling that your strength was a crime. Now you understand that it is proof of your ongoing individuation, the manifestation of your authentic self, refusing to be assimilated by an external will. The attack you suffered was not a valid judgment on your character. It was the desperate projection of someone else's shadow, a shadow that could not bear the light of your integrity. The confusion it sowed, that dark alchemy that tried to transform your gold into lead, was a deliberate tactic to make you doubt your inner compass, so that it could become your North Star. You learned that his need for your psychic energy wasn't a compliment but a form of vampirism, an attempt to use your light to fill his own emptiness. And perhaps most importantly, you saw how this ordeal, terrible as it was, became an unwitting catalyst for your own shadow work, forcing you to become more aware and integrated. And at each step, by resisting, by holding firm, you weren't being stubborn or difficult. You were practicing an act of sacred devotion to your own center, to yourself. Embracing this truth is the true act of empowerment. It's not about winning a battle against the narcissist. The true victory happens internally. It's realizing that you don't need their validation, their understanding, or their permission to be who you are. Your strength doesn't need a co-signer. Your reality doesn't need an approval committee. Think of yourself as a mountain. The narcissist can yell at the mountain, can try to climb it, can try to dynamite it, can even spray paint its rocks with accusations. but he cannot move the mountain. He cannot change the fact that the mountain exists, solid, rooted in the earth, with its own climate, its own ecology, its own truth. Your strength is this mountain. Your journey of individuation is the process of becoming increasingly aware of your own immensity, your own solidity. Honoring your unique way of being is therefore an act of psychic sovereignty. It means giving yourself the permission you expected others to give you. Permission to need silence. Permission to say no without feeling guilty. Permission to trust that inner voice even when the whole world calls it madness. Permission to be complex, to have light and shadow, to be a warrior and a child at the same time. This self-acceptance is not a passive act. It is a daily and courageous practice. It is choosing, moment by moment, to tune into your own inner rhythm, rather than marching to someone else's drum. It is understanding that your soul has its own music, and your job in this life is not to learn to dance to someone else's tune, but to learn to hear and honor your own melody. Sometimes this music will be soft and slow. Other times, it will be a powerful and resonant anthem. The narcissist wanted you to turn off your music and listen only to theirs. Your healing, your freedom, lies in turning up the volume on yours. By doing so, you not only heal yourself, but you also offer something profound to the world. A person who inhabits their authentic center, who is true to their own self, becomes a beacon. They don't need to shout to be seen. Their light simply is. And this light offers a reference point for others who are also navigating stormy seas. Their journey, their strength, and their resilience become a silent permission for others to reclaim their own sovereignty. So, I invite you to reflect on this. What is the music of your soul today? And what small step can you take to honor it, to turn up the volume a little? Maybe it's taking 5 minutes of silence. Maybe it's reaffirming a boundary. Maybe it's simply gently acknowledging the mountain that you are. Share your reflections in the comments if you feel like it. Your story is part of a much larger tapestry of strength and rediscovery. Remember, your strength was never a weakness. It was, and always will be, your path back home to yourself. But understanding this intellectually is one thing. Living it day to day is another. How in practice do we maintain this loyalty to the self when the echo of accusations still resonates in our moments of doubt? How do we transform this painful understanding into lived wisdom? Here, Jungian psychology offers us not only a map, but also a compass and tools for the journey. The first tool is the conscious practice of inner alchemy. We mentioned how the narcissist practices a dark alchemy, trying to transform his gold into lead. Your task now is to reverse this process. Jung saw the ancient art of alchemy as a perfect metaphor for the process of individuation. The alchemist's goal was not just to transform metals, but to transform himself. The raw material, the prima materia, was his own chaotic and undifferentiated soul. His pain, the confusion, the anger, the sadness left by this toxic interaction, this is his prima materia. It is the lead. Instead of trying to get rid of it, ignoring it, or being ashamed of feeling it, the alchemical work is to contain it. It is to look at this dense, dark mass of emotions and ask, with genuine curiosity, what inside wants to be transformed? The pain of being accused of being selfish can be transformed into the gold of self-compassion and firm boundaries. The pain of being called cold can be transformed into the gold of a well-protected inner sanctuary, where you choose who enters. This process is neither quick nor easy. It requires an airtight vessel, a safe space, be it a journal, a meditation practice, or a relationship with a therapist, where you can warm these emotions with the flame of your awareness without letting them evaporate or explode. By doing so, you are not only healing yourself, you are creating something new and precious from what was meant to destroy you. The second tool is dialogue with archetypes. As we've seen, to survive, you needed to activate the warrior archetype. But a healthy psyche is like a well-governed kingdom. It cannot be ruled by a single power. If the warrior remains on the throne for too long, the kingdom will become a paranoid fortress. Individuation requires a council of archetypes. The conscious work here is to invite other voices to the table. You need to summon the inner sage, that part of you that sees patterns, that understands the deeper meaning of events, and that doesn't get caught up in the drama of the moment. Ask it, what is the lesson here? What has this experience taught me about human nature and my own strength? You desperately need to summon the Great Mother, or the inner caretaker. This is the part of you that offers unconditional compassion, while the warrior says, fight, and the sage says, learn. The caregiver says, rest. You are safe. You are allowed to be vulnerable here, with me. This dialogue can happen through writing, art, or active imagination, a technique Jung developed. It's literally allowing these inner figures to speak and listening to what they have to say. By balancing the warrior's strength with the sage's wisdom and the caregiver's compassion, you move from being a mere survivor to the conscious ruler of your own inner realm. The third tool, and perhaps the most fundamental, is the recovery and redirection of your psychic energy, your libido. Remember, the narcissist tried to install a tap in your soul. Even after he's gone, the tap can remain open, leaking energy into ruminative thoughts, imaginary confrontational scenarios, and self-doubt. Turning off this tap is a deliberate act. It requires you to ask yourself several times a day, where is my energy flowing now? If it's flowing toward the past, toward injustice, or toward anger, you're losing it. The act of recovering it is to intentionally redirect it toward your own center. What nourishes yourself? What makes your soul sing that unique song we mentioned? This is where introversion, so misunderstood by the outside world, reveals itself as a spiritual practice. It's not about hiding from the world, but about cultivating your inner garden. Every moment you spend in nature, every page you write, every note you play, every moment of silence where you simply breathe and feel your own body, these are acts of redirection. You are literally taking the energy that would otherwise be spent on external drama and using it to water the seeds of your own being. Over time, your inner garden becomes so lush and vibrant that the narcissist's psychic desert loses all its power of attraction. You no longer need to fight their darkness. You are simply too busy, too fascinated, cultivating your own light. These three tools, inner alchemy, dialogue with archetypes, and redirection of libido, form the tripod of your psychic sovereignty. They represent conscious work, the deliberate effort of reconstruction. But the beauty of Jung's approach is that it recognizes that we are not alone in this work. The psyche itself, yourself, is an active partner in your healing process, and it communicates with us in ways that transcend the logic of the ego. This brings us to a fourth tool, which is less about doing and more about listening. Work with dreams and symbols. After an experience with narcissistic abuse, your dreams can become intense territory. Nightmares of being chased, of being trapped, of screaming without anyone hearing you may emerge. The ego may see this as a mere symptom of trauma, something to be suppressed or ignored. But for the Jungian psyche, these are not just echoes of pain. They are urgent messages from the unconscious. A dream in which you are being chased is not just telling you you are afraid. It is asking you a fundamental question. What are you still running from in your waking life? What aspect of yourself or your situation have you not yet confronted? A dream in which you are trapped in a crumbling house may be the self's way of showing you that old belief structures about yourself and relationships are no longer safe and need to be abandoned. The work here isn't to become a professional dream analyst, but rather to cultivate an attitude of reverent curiosity toward your inner world. Keep a journal by your bed. Upon waking, before even reaching for your phone, jot down the images, feelings, and phrases that remain. Don't try to interpret them immediately. Just honor them by recording them. Then, throughout the day, ask yourself, where did I feel this same feeling of being stuck today? What does this image of a rusty key remind me of? You'll begin to realize that your dreams are like a wise and mysterious friend who sends you letters in symbolic language. Learning to read these letters is reconnecting with the deepest guidance of yourself. The narcissist tried to convince you that your internal compass was broken. Your dreams are proof that it never stopped working, just that you were taught to ignore its magnetic needle. Finally, the fifth and perhaps most integrative of all tools is the practice of the body as an anchor for the soul. Jungian psychology is, at its core, a psychology of embodiment, of bringing spirit into matter, consciousness into the body. The trauma of psychological abuse doesn't just reside in the mind as a memory, it lives in the body as tension, as shallow breathing, as a chronically activated nervous system, always in fight or flight mode. You may understand intellectually that you are safe now, but your body may still be fighting a war that has already ended. Therefore, the ultimate healing must be somatic. It must descend from the head and inhabit your body. This doesn't require anything complex. It's the practice of feeling your feet on the ground when anxiety arises. It's the act of placing your hand over your heart and taking 3 deep breaths when the voice of your inner critic, which sounds eerily like the narcissist's, begins to speak. It's going for a walk and instead of thinking about 1,000 things, focusing only on the sensation of the wind on your skin or the sound of your footsteps in the leaves. For Jung, nature wasn't just a beautiful place. It was the visible manifestation of the world's psyche, the anima mundi. Connecting with nature is connecting with something real, solid, and eternal, which serves as a powerful counterbalance to the narcissist's world of illusions and distortions. Each conscious breath is an act of reclaiming. You are saying to your body, "We are here. We are in this moment. And in this moment, we are safe." This act of bodily grounding does more than calm anxiety. It closes the loop between mind, body, and soul. It transforms your strength, which was once an idea or a mental defense, into a felt, lived, breathed reality. You stop just knowing that you are a mountain. You begin to feel your own solidity, your own weight, your own unshakable presence on earth. These 5 practices, inner alchemy, dialogue with archetypes, redirecting libido, listening to dreams, and anchoring in the body, are not sequential steps, but rather threads of a tapestry. You weave them together, day after day, to create your new life. A life defined not by the absence of the narcissist, but by the vibrant and authentic presence of yourself. And when you begin to inhabit this solidity, something miraculous happens. The image of the narcissist, which previously occupied immense space in your mind like a giant in your psychic theater, begins to shrink. He loses his emotional charge. The power he had over you wasn't in him, but in your reaction to him, in the energy you invested in understanding, combating, or healing him. By redirecting this energy toward yourself, you cut off the supply that kept him bloated in your psyche. You stop seeing them as a personal monster, sent to destroy you, and begin to see them for what they truly are. An actor in a much, much older drama. An archetypal drama. From a Jungian perspective, the narcissist is often the embodiment of an archetype stuck in its development. They may be the puer aeternus, the eternal youth, who refuses to grow up, to take responsibility for their own shadow, and to face the pains of real life, preferring to live in a fantasy world of grandeur. Or they may be the trickster in his darkest guise, a master of manipulation and inversion, who sows chaos to feel powerful but creates nothing of lasting value. Seeing this isn't meant to excuse you, but to free you. When you understand that you weren't fighting a person, but an ancient, impersonal pattern of human behavior, the wound stops being so personal. It wasn't about your inadequacy. It was about his inability to escape his own archetypal script. He was just playing his tragic role, and you, unfortunately, were cast opposite him for a time. But now you can step off the stage, and this is where true forgiveness becomes possible. Not the forgiveness that says, "What you did is okay. It will never be okay." But Jungian forgiveness, which is an act of psychic sovereignty. It's the act of completely withdrawing your projections and your energy from the other person. It's looking at the situation and saying, "Your shadow is no longer my concern. Your journey is no longer my concern. Your choices are no longer my concern. I withdraw my energy from our shared drama and invest it entirely in my own individuation." Forgiveness, in this view, is not a gift you give to them. It is the final declaration of your own freedom. It is the act of closing the psychic valve forever. From this point on, your life begins to change in ways you could barely imagine. The energy previously spent on hypervigilance preparing for the next attack, reliving past wounds, is now freed up. It's like a nation shifting from a war economy to a peace economy. Suddenly resources are available for art, for creativity, for building bridges instead of walls. You might be surprised by a sudden desire to paint, to write, to start a garden, to learn a new language. This is your libido, your vital energy, finally returning home and asking to create, not just survive. Your relationship with your own strength also transforms. It ceases to be a reactive armor and becomes a calm, centered presence. You no longer need to prove your strength or defend it. It simply is. This manifests as keen discernment. You become an excellent judge of character, not out of cynicism, but through experience. Your intuition, once called paranoia, becomes your most trusted ally. You learn to sense the difference between a person who is genuinely open and one operating from a ravenous ego, and you walk away from the latter without fanfare, without anger, only with the calm resolve of someone who knows their inner sanctuary is sacred. And this calm is the final sign that you have won. Not him, but the battle within yourself. The battle between the truth of yourself and the lie he tried to implant. Your strength, once his target, has now become your compass and your shield. It no longer needs to be proclaimed or defended, for it has become the very atmosphere you breathe, the very ground upon which you walk. And this energy of quiet integrity creates a field that naturally repels those who operate from fragmentation and deception. And so, the journey that began in pain and confusion finds its true purpose. The narcissist, in the end, reveals himself as an unwitting and brutal catalyst for your deepest initiation. He was the weight that tested your structure, the darkness that forced you to find your own light, the poison that compelled you to discover your own antidote. He gave you nothing, but in trying to take everything, he forced you to reclaim the one thing no one can take away, your connection to your authentic self. The alchemy is complete. The lead of pain has been transformed not only into gold, but into a lived wisdom that now illuminates your path. So what we're left with is not a collection of scars, but a map that shows the way back home, to the center of your own being. Your strength was never the problem. It was always the answer. It was a glimpse of your destiny, an echo of the whole person you were destined to become. And by honoring it, by defending it, and ultimately by simply inhabiting it, you are not just healing yourself. You are offering the world the rarest and most precious gift of all, the presence of an individual who dared to become themselves. If this journey resonated with you, share a truth you needed to hear today in the comments. Your story and insights are part of this great conversation. Like this video if it resonated with you, share it with anyone who might need it, and subscribe so we can continue exploring the maps of the soul together. Remember, your journey of individuation is unique, and honoring it is your greatest power.